Today is Sunday and a day of work reflection. I posted a video this morning about the why for the ceremony, for living ceremony, and I thought maybe I would just also talk about some of the things that have come up in the process. There's always an opportunity for resistance to make its way through, and I think I felt resistance on maybe day 3 or 4, because when I decided to make this commitment, I was at a peak of a initiation process, and a lot of synchronicities were happening, and I was feeling that high of everything's lining up. This feels meaningful and magical and like what I'm supposed to be doing. And then just like, well, let me describe this noticing this week. I've been studying the rose as a plant that I'm working with as a medicine teacher. And the interesting thing about a rose is the moment that it reaches its full bloom, that very moment that it is fully open in its glory, the very next moment is the beginning of its death, where it begins dying. So that is a little bit of what I experienced, is right after that peak of a high of initiation, of making this commitment, of feeling enthusiastic about it, the very next thing is the shedding process of needing to shed the pieces of me that don't support the process, to allow myself to notice the voices that aren't supportive, the parts of me that say this doesn't matter, nobody's paying attention, nobody cares if I do this or not. And in those moments, that becomes the opportunity to notice, well, why am I doing this? Is this for somebody else or is it for me? And I guess it's a little bit of both. There is a part of me that is recognizing that I am in a shifting stage of the healing journey. It's sometimes described as the wounded healer is the one who becomes the shaman, because in order to learn how to heal someone else or help someone heal themselves, you have to go through the journey of learning to heal yourself. What does healing truly mean? So I've been on quite a extended spiritual awakening healing journey, and I'm finally reaching a point that I am feeling the urge towards that new bloom, towards sharing, towards navigating the path of how do I take some of these experiences and lessons and turn them into wisdom. How do I share the wisdom of these stories and experiences? So part of that is an invitation to learn the technology to do so, as there's, we live in a very technological, fast-paced world where we're often scrolling and can find a great quote, or can be led to some deeper thought process of wisdom. And technology is a beautiful way to reach far and wide and have no real context for who we may reach. But there's also the resistance part of me that has fear that in the exposure of putting myself out there, I'm also inviting the criticism or the evil eye, so to speak, that someone may not support me, or they may not agree with what I have to say, or any number of things. So why do it? Why take the risk? And I think it's all part of the process to recognize that My medicine is not for everyone, just as everyone else's belief systems are not necessarily for me, but it is part of a greater conversation. And I think the greater conversation is to be more vulnerable, to share more intimately, to be willing to tell our stories, and let that be the possibility of a place for each of us to learn from one another. Even if the invitation is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to navigate the path that way. That is the conversation. So I'm navigating the uncomfortability of not knowing what may come up in this journey, what I might say, what I might not say, but also noticing what I'm willing to say and what I'm not, and to reach a little deeper into asking myself some tough questions. Am I viewing my life experience from the lens of shame? Or am I viewing my life experience as from the lens of someone who was willing to take risks, who was willing to take chances, who believed in themselves, who didn't always walk the most conventional path, but really tried to connect with the truer parts of myself, the part of me that was available to exploration, who was curious, who had some deep questioning and was willing to walk to edges to find out that they weren't edges, or they weren't, not everything was as I had been told, and or just that I couldn't know for myself unless I walked that path myself. And this is a greater conversation of initiations. Are we willing to dive deeply into our own self-exploration and to our connection with the world and the way that we view the world, and ask ourselves why we think the things that we do, and what belief systems are we navigating from? So I think in posting a video daily, I'm holding myself accountable to showing up, to remembering that my life is not just about me, but about how can I take my gifts and give those away. It's surrender, which, looking up the etymology of that, surrender felt a little bit too much like defeatist for me. So, in working with the etymology, I came up with the super give. If we're really giving of ourselves, if we're willing to bloom fully, then it's the super give, it's the surrender. So how can I be more available to the super give and trust with faith that there's purpose and meaning for it all? If there's anything I've learned in writing the memoir, it's that there is much more purpose and meaning in life than we can even see in that moment, and that there's all of these connecting, running threads, and life is not just a linear path, but it spirals and loops and has much more complexity, especially as we dig in deeper and notice the opportunities in life that we did take and the opportunities that we didn't, and that every single choice we make in life leads us down a path. And can we continue to hone our ability to make choices from a place of truth and a place of love, rather than a place of fear or scarcity mindset? So these are just some thoughts today. I'm going to be navigating these videos by trying to take a little bit more of an opportunity to speak vulnerably, leaning into the edge, and inviting conversation around some of these subjects. What does ceremony mean to you? What does it mean to go through a process of initiation? And how can we each be more available and vulnerable to sharing our gifts and learning what those gifts are in the process of just being vulnerable. So, thanks so much for listening. I hope you're having a beautiful Sunday.
Knock it up.